Hello and welcome to Deep Topics with Shaun. I'm your host, Shaun, and I'm so thankful and grateful that you've joined us here for this podcast today. In this episode, we're going to be discussing something very personal to me, and that's the story of how I discovered meditation and how meditation significantly changed the trajectory of my life. I'm going to tell you about a dark space that I was in and what I realized during that dark space that led me to meditation and how meditation helped pull me out of that dark space and get me onto the path that I am on currently sitting here today. If you're new to the podcast, this is Deep Topics with Shaun, and this is a space that I've been drawn to for a long time where I wanted to create a platform to be able to share and talk about deep topics that wouldn't otherwise be spoken about in our daily lives. And in this podcast, I share stories and experiences from my life that have insights and learnings to be able to get you to a space where it's easier for you to thrive in today's fast paced world. This is episode 3, and if you haven't seen episode 1 and 2 already, there should be somewhere in the vicinity of this episode. So if you find a link to the podcast, whether down below, to the side, or above, feel free to click the link depending on the platform that you're watching or listening to this on, because this podcast is available on YouTube and Spotify. And make sure to take some time to listen to those previous episodes because they give you a good grounding and foundation in what Deep Topics with Shaun has to offer you and why it might be a good idea for you to subscribe and receive some notifications to continue to listen on a weekly basis. If you like Deep Topics with Shaun and you want to listen more, please leave a like on the platform that you're viewing or listening to this on. Leave us a comment or review. Let us know whether anything in this episode resonated with you and your life. And feel free to subscribe to receive more episodes going forward. As I mentioned previously, this episode is going to talk about my meditation journey more strongly. But before I get into that, I want to let you know that my meditation course called the 5 Minute Stress Relieving Meditation is currently available to purchase. And if you click down below, you can get this meditation course with a free 45-minute coaching call. In this coaching call, I will help you personally to gain clarity on one of the obstacles that is currently holding you back from progressing on one of your life goals. I'll help you develop an action plan to take action on that goal that means so much to you. And I'll also help you gather the courage to take action on that goal from today. Remember, this meditation course requires no prior experience with meditation. And also, if you're someone that's seeking to refresh your knowledge with meditation, this is also ideal for you. This is a meditation course that I personally use in my daily life to relieve my daily stresses, relieve tension in my mind and body, and also to calm my anxious mind whenever I feel that I'm facing racing thoughts or just feeling a general sense of overwhelm and need some type of refresh. This is a meditation technique that I always go to. It's my daily go-to, and I want to share it with you. So it's linked down below, and you can get it now with a free 45-minute coaching call. Yeah, we're on episode 3, and I hope you take time to get that meditation course, and I hope you take time to listen to the previous podcast. But in this podcast episode, I want to give you a sense of what led me to meditation in the first place, and I want to be able to do that by first setting the stage of where I was in my life at the time. Okay, so it was 2019, and I just moved to Joburg because I'd been offered a job by one of my friends at the time. And when my friend called me to mention this job, I was at the airport, and I think I was on my way to Cape Town to see a friend. I remember I had just left a job at the time that was a very much traumatic experience for me. And it was a heavily toxic environment where I was dealing with a manager who really was being so much angry and volatile with me in private spaces that I was feeling the fire and fury that I did not at all deserve from this person. I remember being in that job. It was the first job that I had out of university, and I was so hopeful and wide eyed and optimistic about going through the working experience and discovering what work was like, only to hit a stumbling wall by coming across this demon mistress of an individual who never really had compassion for me, even though I looked like her, I sounded like her, I was as smart as she was, but I just met this person who didn't believe I was worth anything or deserving of being there. So, having left that environment, I was very much broken and seeking a new start. And so, I was glad to receive a call from one of my friends who let me know that he was working for a startup in Joburg, and they were looking for someone to help them support selling the product to clients, and I should send my CV in and see if I would be considered for the job. So I did that. I created a CV for this role and I sent it in. And I remember I was visiting a friend in Cape Town because it was that friend's birthday at the end of October. So I had taken time to gather myself and also spend time with a friend and to really create an experience for me to try to shake off some of the traumatic experience that I just gone through when I lived in Durban. I sent in my CV. I did the interview. I remember being in an Airbnb, and when I was in that Airbnb, I was unsure about my internet connection. And I remember doing the call on my phone and propping it up on the chair somehow. And I did the call, and I remember asking a question in that interview to the person who was interviewing me. And one of the questions was, like, I prefer to know who the person is on the outside. And that was kind of insinuating that if you're a toxic person, I prefer to see it versus experiencing it behind closed doors. Because remember, in my previous working experience with a demon mistress, what she was doing was that she was being a demon mistress behind closed doors. And when she was interacting with me and people on a public facing space, she was appearing to put on a smile and a show of goodness and sanctity that was not at all there. So, going into this new experience, I thought that it was a good idea that if I could see what the person, the unwholesome characteristics were on the surface, then that would have been more pleasant and palatable than to experience fire and fury behind closed doors. So yeah, the person was who was interviewing was telling me, yes, they're very much transparent. And I told them also what I was earning at the previous job, and they told me that they were not able to match that and that I would be taking a significant pay cut to work at that job. But knowing that on one hand, I was excited to have been offered an opportunity. And so I thought at the time that even though that I would take that pay cut, that based on what I expected to pay for rent to live in Joburg, that was a salary that I'd still be able to work with. And that opportunity would was ideal at the time because I did not have to continue to apply for opportunities. And also, yeah, I wanted to take the opportunity to live in Joburg because in my mind, I had studied a finance degree. And I know that when I was in university, I was not resonating with the idea of being like a finance bro. And so for me to take that job, which had some type of financial niche to it, appeared to offer me the opportunity to test whether this was something that could align with a long seated desire of mine. So I took that job and I took that opportunity and I went to work there in Joburg. And from a moment of maybe a month or so, I started to see that one of the individuals that I was working with was very like short-tempered, insecure, having angry outbursts, and they had this like tyrannical persona to them where they're like huffing and puffing and walking with their chest out like they're dominating and controlling the space, and they're like the shit of the show. So I could see very early on that this person was a copy of the demon mistress that I left behind in that previous job. And that essentially, where I thought I was escaping the demon mistress, I actually was meeting the demon bouncer of the establishment who was breathing fire and was really like giving off the same unhealthy, unwholesome, toxic vibes that the previous one was. So I knew then that I was in the same situation that I was before. And it was not at all the change that I thought that it was. That sucked. It sucked so bad because I was looking for healing and I was looking for a wholesome environment. And instead, I was finding these demonic entities who were really causing me pain and suffering because they were too much self absorbed to recognize that we're all here with our own lives, our own goals, and our own dreams, and it's not at all about you. So that job didn't work out. It didn't work out. And within a couple of months, I knew that it was time to move on. And I remember having this experience with this person where I was in a meeting with them and I recognized that if I spend more time here, I'm going to become like you. And I don't want to do that to myself. I don't want to become like you. I'm going to leave. I have to leave. And so it was an abrupt leaving, but it was me protecting my peace and making sure I do not self-destruct under the the weight of this negative energy. Sometimes negative energy can have such a weight to it that it threatens to destroy your entire mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And so I am fortunate that I can see internally and feel internally what my state is like. So if I can see that there is potential to threaten my well-being, then and if I need to make a change that appears drastic to someone else, then I must make that change and I must protect myself from disastrous negative energy. And I did that and I left. So a month after leaving, I was in a very, very deep, 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 dark depression. I was in a deep, dark depression, very, very deep, dark depression. And it was life changing. It was the most life changing depression that you could ever hope to get in your life. If there's one depression that you want, it must be that life changing depression that rocks your entire world and makes you wonder what the fuck is going on here? What have I been doing? I was in that depression. I remember I was so deep in that depression, I could not taste food anymore. I was so deep in that depression, I could not experience like sexual attraction anymore. My body was not normal, it was not functioning. I even was so deep in that depression that, like, there was a moment where I was having a nightmare, and in that nightmare, I choked on my tongue. I choked on my tongue. I think that was so close to entering suicidal territory that my subconscious mind was even saying, we're done here. That's how deep in that depression I was. I was so deep in that depression. Wow. What rocked my world at the time was that how did I attract this negative entity number two after leaving the one behind there, demon mistress, coming to demon bouncer? At the time it appeared to be like this cycle of, oh wait, if I go again to another job, am I going to end up with demon number three? I don't want to do that. And at the time it felt like I was stuck in that cycle of attracting people that treated me like shit. It really felt like I was stuck in a cycle of attracting people that treated me like shit. And that was not at all a good space to be in, because I think we all know when we're stuck in a loop of attracting people that treat us with low self-worth. And we also know that being stuck in that loop doesn't feel very nice. And it is very challenging to even see how to get out of something like that, out of that cycle, negative, toxic cycle. So when I found out that opportunity number two attracted me to the same type of person that caused me pain and suffering in opportunity number one, and all I wanted to do was to have a job and do my work and thrive in my successful career. But meanwhile, I was dealing with these weird, fucked up people that were doing weird, fucked up things. It was too much for me to handle, and this like idea of what life was like had crumbled. And with the crumbling of that idea was also my my view on what really life was. I had been promised up until this time or told by the world that when you graduate, it's going to be so wonderful. You're going to have a job and you're going to get a house and you're going to have a car and you're going to succeed and thrive in your career and you're going to make millions and it's going to be so great and wonderful, only to find out that you meet weird and fucked up people in your toxic workplaces that are seeking to make their own agendas known. And it's not going to be easy. And you're going to have to navigate these stupid fucking people's personalities instead of getting the work done. You think that it's about getting the work done. No, it's about stroking people's egos and making them feel good about themselves. And the people that want to feel good about themselves are often the weak, insecure people that are also narcissistic and prideful and seeking for daddy's love. Daddy never loved them, and they're seeking for daddy's love from the employees. I'm sorry, I had to say it. I had to say it. I met three people like this. I met three people like this. I met three people like this, and you know what? As someone who never got daddy's love, I can tell you that it takes effort to heal. It takes effort to not be tyrannical, insecure, narcissistic, desperately searching and seeking for attention, seeking for ego stroking, looking for yes men, looking to be validated. It really takes so much effort and work to get away from those things. So that I can come across grown adults in workplace environments that are deeply hurt and broken people and that are seeking for love and attention from the wrong people and the wrong places. It's so fucked up. But I was unconscious at the time and I didn't know that that is what was happening. So, anyways, because of my depression, my deep, dark depression, I went to see a psychologist. And the psychologist, who I paid 900 Rand for a session for, she she was not at all helpful. She was not at all helpful. I got a prescription for antidepressants because I filled in this survey that told me that, I needed that. And that was also a life-changing moment for me to recognize, like, am I going to be this like emo depressed person who's on medication to be normal, or am I really going to shake things up in physical reality and really like do a sharp 90-degree turn and really like shake up my life? Am I going to shake up my life and am I going to be someone who's healthy, whole, and functioning? Because making the decision to be healthy, whole, and functioning is not a brave decision. Sorry, it is a brave decision, and it takes a lot of courage, and it's not a decision that many people do. Many people run away from the problem and they continue to be stuck in the cycle because they're following logic instead of following their intuition. Because your intuition will tell you that this has not been working for the second time. If you do it again blindly, you're going to end up in the same situation. But logic will tell you desperation for money, desperation for validation, seeking for love in the wrong place, don't know what's going on, don't want to confront your darkness, your insecurities, your shadows, and so forth, and makes you fall into the trap of being stuck in the cycle. So I didn't want to be that person. I never wanted to be that person that was on antidepressants to be healthy, whole, and functioning. And so I had to make a decision there and then to recognize, am I going to change things? Am I going to do something different? Am I going to do something so radically different that's not kill myself? Because killing myself is not the way to heal. Killing myself is not the way to get out. Sometimes you can be so deep, dark in depression that the mind will suggest to you that if you kill yourself, that's the way to survive. But that's so illogical that it doesn't make sense. So I had to think to myself, I'm the closest I've ever been to suicide. I can literally visualize the weapon and the bathtub, and I'm like feet away from it, and it can all end now. But is that really the way to solve this problem? It wasn't. It wasn't the way to solve this problem. And somehow, in the cloud of depression, there was still that like clear background that told me it's not this. It's not this. It's going to bring so much suffering to your loved ones. And I even remember Googling, like which countries will allow me to kill myself legally, which countries will allow me. I was so deep in depression that I was googling which countries will allow me to, like, they'll sit with me and they'll do the suicide and then I can die peacefully, because I'm such a piece of shit that I want to die, but I want to die with my loved ones so that they know I didn't just leave them, you know. That's where I was. That is where I was. I was ready to end it all. But I think at the time I knew that, in my family we often have this thing, we ask, like, will you cry when I die? And we want to know that people care. And sometimes out of like meanness, if we hurt at the person, we say no, I won't cry. But sometimes, we'll say yes, I will cry. We know that people care, and I know that many people would have mourned the loss of Shaun. So it was not at all an option that I had available to me, and it was a very illogical one that didn't at all make sense. And I I knew I needed the courage to change my life. I just did not know where to start. Interestingly enough, let me segue for a second. When I moved to Joburg, I anticipated that if this test of will I succeed as a finance bro doesn't work out, what will my option be? I must then move on from this corporate life, and I must follow my passion and pursue art. And I know that art needs a portfolio, but I don't know how to draw well yet, like the artists in high school do. So, what must happen? I must teach myself to draw and I must build a portfolio so that if this job doesn't work out, I already have artworks to submit. That's what I did. I remember I moved to Joburg in November, and from like from December, if I can remember correctly, from December I was starting to produce art, whatever I could make. I remember I abandoned art, like taking it seriously. I abandoned art when I was 6 years old. So I was really like painting whatever the hell I could paint. And I was putting it on my wall, and I even have some of the artworks like available here that I created when I was living in Joburg. And I really like knew, I didn't know, but I had anticipated if this is not going to work out, then what am I going to do? I'm going to apply to art school. I need to have a portfolio. I need to start creating that portfolio now. So when the job didn't work out, even though I was in depression mode and closest to suicide I'd ever been, I kind of could look around my walls and see, wait, there's art here, and I need an application, which is a form, and I need to go to the post office and find out what's that like career fee, and I need to make sure that I'm within the application deadline, and I know which school I'm going to apply to. It's Michaela School of Fine Art at UCT, and I know that I have all of these artworks, but I know that they have some drawing challenges in there as well. Like, so I need to now also do some lessons online. So that moment when I got the closest I was ever to suicide, me visualizing myself lying in a pool of blood in my bathtub, and I could see the knife. It was my favorite knife, the chef's knife. I could tell which direction I was going to cut, all of that. I was even Googling that moment. Remember, countries of assisted suicide, and like where can I kill myself legally, and all of these things. I was doing these, I was really like preparing for the end, but at the back of my mind, something was happening. Something was saying, not yet, or not the right time, or not even the right choice. So somehow I was being reminded of the portfolio in that moment, that evening, that moment, that dark, dark evening. I was being reminded of the portfolio. And I watched a video on YouTube of this artist, and this artist who was like ambidextrous, and they were able to create art with their left and right hand. And I remember like crying. I remember crying after watching this video, because I had an intuitive vision of myself as an artist. Watching that video brought me an intuitive vision of myself as an artist. Seeing that was so loaded with it can be done, that it brought like relief. It brought relief, and the relief was tears. And the tears was like this release of this burden. I felt like I was trapped, but I was not trapped because I could see it. I could see Shaun the artist, and it was just a glimpse like that, but it was so full and loaded with information that it was wow, it was wonderful. Crying those tears was very much needed because I was grieving the old me that thought that life was something when it was not. And I was grieving the old me because one thing that I was starting to recognize was that everything I'd believed about life leading up to that moment was not at all proving to be truthful in my validation of that effort. Because when I was walking throughout life and I was like, okay, person X, Y, and Z told me that this was going to happen and this was going to happen and this was going to happen. But when I went to university and I chose this degree, I was so depressed because I was realizing that I was not the smartest person there. And when I went into the working world and I was trying to do like my first job at like what was told to be a very nice company, I met this demon that made my life hell. I didn't at all get to enjoy what a nice, like peaceful, fulfilling career was. And then when I left that job in tears, and thought that my Joburg experience was going to be like a peaceful, joyful, fulfilling one, I met the demon bouncer from hell who was huffing and puffing and ready to blow the house down. And it was not at all the peaceful and fulfilling career that was promised to me. So every time I took steps that people told me, like, oh, you must get a job, you must get a job, you must get a job. They didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. And they forgot to tell me that they too are experiencing stupid, fucked up people in their workplace environments. And they're dealing with it because they don't believe they deserve better. And that's exactly what they were pushing me for. They were pushing me to tolerate stupid, fucked up people so that just for money and thinking that that is a normal way of living life. Sorry, I don't want to do that. And I've dealt with too many stupid, fucked up people to know that when I go into a workplace, I go into a workplace with a desire and an intention to do a job. And I don't at all have any desire to prove myself to you because I have spent too much time and effort building myself as a skilled, knowledgeable, and experienced person. So when I come across someone who's desperate for validation or desperate attention or deeply insecure, that's making someone dance with them because they think that that's the way to progress. Immediately, I see that, sorry, who are you and what are you doing? Because I saw that. I saw that three times. I saw that three times, and it makes me wonder, like, the three times I saw that is because I chose to go into spaces that were like known as like high growth spaces. And they don't tell you this about companies, but like in companies that call themselves high growth, they are plagued with toxicity. And the toxicity often like shows up in lack of empathy, like when you want to take time for yourself, people ask you like, what self? Oh, you have a life? No, you can't have a life. And then they also like disregarding and invalidating of your personal experience. Like you say, that's what I experienced, and they say no, it didn't at all go like that. And they often like bring lies and deception into it. Like you, if you have a conversation and then they say afterwards that no, the conversation didn't at all happen that way, or they like have no respect for your time. So you could receive a meeting in 5 minutes and expect to be there, and if you're not there, they're like, well, where were you? They have no respect for that you have a life. So sometimes you'll be receiving emails or communications at hours outside work, and there's the expectation that your dedication of your soul to that business is what was expected. So I didn't know that. I'm sorry, Pashwan. I didn't know that. I didn't know that high growth spaces were actually fucked up environments where people go to get their soul sucked out of them. That's where careers go to die. Careers go to die in high growth environments. Why don't they ever put that on the marketing materials? They must put that in the job descriptions that if you want to come here and experience the most depression and burnout that you've ever experienced in your life, then apply to this and be successful in your deep, dark depression, your daily deep, dark depression, where you are literally longing for the sweet release of death or resignation. I'm sorry. I'm actually not sorry. Watch out. Watch out for those places. Don't be so desperate for money that you're seeking to just go wherever appears to, wherever they write, like compelling copy. You must really interrogate that space to wonder, like, what's going on here. And I noticed this recently, that there are some things about a job description that gives up red flags. And sometimes we have so low self-worth that we actually are drawn into spaces of toxicity. We might have been drawn into spaces of toxicity because we think that that's a space for us to grow and develop, when actually that's a space for us to experience pain and suffering. And that's the pain and suffering that we think we deserve, and that's why we're going there. And if we only knew that, then we wouldn't be going there. So wake up and believe that you deserve better. Sorry that we're living in a society where glorify abuse people glorify abuse, and it's made us have such low standards that we can go into places and we can be treated like shit, and we can think that that is good. No, sorry, that's not good. And wake up from that delusion and start to expect better for yourself and from yourself. I think I'm going to pause there for a second. I'm going to pause there, and I'm going to tell you about my meditation course, which really helped me. When I was in that, I wasn't doing it in the first job, and that's why I walked out of there in tears. But with that Joburg experience, with the demon bouncer who was huffing and puffing and ready to blow the house down, I was meditating every day. I remember when I got into that office at 8 a.m., I was spending between 8 and 8:30 meditating in that wellness prayer room. And I was doing that to prepare myself mentally to deal with this demonic entity. My meditation course, which is called the 5 minute stress relieving meditation, it's the very same meditation that I do to regularly relieve my stress, relieve pressure, calm any anxiety that I'm facing, and release tensions in my body. And it works from just 5 minutes. If you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and if you need something to help you relieve that stress, to help you shake off that negativity, that volatility, to restore a sense of peace, calm, and clarity to your mind, click down below and get that meditation course. And if you get it now, you're going to get a free 45-minute coaching call from me. And in that call, I'm going to help you with one of the mental obstacles that you are experiencing in your life, something that's holding you back from progressing in your life goals. I'm going to help you to gain clarity on that, to develop the action plan, and to gather the courage to take action on that. And believe me, I can help you with that because I've done it so many times myself. Not only do I do that meditation regularly, but the thing of coaching, I am my own coach. I do have people that support me in my life. But the way I've been able to progress and progress and progress, and to get out of these spaces, and to gather myself and to develop further, faster, stronger, better each time, it comes because I trust meditation. And I've taken the time to be patient and disciplined with it. And I hope the same for you too. So take action on that. Click down below and get it now, and start to make the progress that you're looking for. And let me help you do that. Okay, so we're at this point where I've told you so much about this experience. I started off telling you that, I even mentioned it somewhere in this video, that when I experienced depression when I was in university, and I found out that I chose the wrong course, I was in the wrong space in my life. When I got into that first job, I thought that this was going to be a great and wonderful experience for me to develop my career. Instead, I met demon mistress who was like doing fire and fury behind closed doors because she was deeply insecure about losing her job, and her performance and the category and all of these types of things, weird and fucked up things that I didn't sign up for. Then I thought I was going to Joburg to start off afresh and to live my finance pro dream. Meanwhile, I was meeting demon bouncer from hell who was huffing and puffing and ready to blow the house down. And that was not at all a peaceful, wonderful experience for me. I was always walking in there fearful, stressed, and worried about, am I going to be shouted at today? I left that job, suffered a depression because my what I believed life to be was not at all proving to work. People told me things about how it's going to go. It never went like that, and they forgot to tell me the interesting things was that whichever environment you go into, you're going to be doing politics and drama because you're going to be dealing with some weird, fucked up people. So you need to be ready, mentally prepared for navigating that too. They didn't tell me about that. It was always only ever about money, growth, and career expectations. It was not about, well, what do you do when you meet this abuser and this abuser is trying to abuse you? They never tell you how to deal with that. Why don't they tell you you're going to meet abuser one, and then behind abuser one is abuser two, who's really enabling abuser one's behavior, and then abuser three is making everyone believe that they're going into abuser one's office to be pampered and petted. Meanwhile, they're funneling people in there to be slaughtered for meat. Why don't they tell you that? They never tell you those things. So I'm telling you now, watch out for those people that are bringing toxicity and negativity into your life. And they are those people who often appear to be so convincing with their professionalism because they know how to frame their words the right way. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. If you ever find yourself so stressed out, not from the work, but from the people, then there you know that's a sign, that's a red flag. That's a red flag for you to revisit your decision of what the hell you are doing there, and to ask yourself, do I believe I deserve better? Yes, you believe. You need to believe you deserve better, and you need to ask yourself, what does that look like to be treated well, good, and kindly? Don't be so low in the dumps with your self-worth and self-esteem that you're willing to accept shit from people. They smear the shit on your face and then you say, yes, please give me more. Don't be one of those people. Too many people are like that. Sorry that we experienced abuse in our lives so that we don't know what it's like to be treated with respect, love, and kindness. You will find someone. I found someone. I found someone who treats me with love, respect, and kindness. This is not a romantic partner. This is someone who sees me for the great and wonderful being that I am, sees me in all my glory and potential, and doesn't want to use and abuse me. I found someone. You can find someone too. Remember, to be seen is such a profound thing to experience. To be seen for who you are in your authentic expression, to be loved, cherished, and embraced for who you are is so wonderful and profound that I wish it for you. And only when you experience it will you know what it feels like, how deeply profound and transformative that experience is. I implore you, go for it, find that person, and never stop until you find that person or people that treat you with deep respect, love, and validation for who you are in your authentic expression. It's so profound, it's so deeply transformative. You're going to thank me. You're going to thank me when you find it, and I trust that you will. So make sure you seek that. But getting back on track to what we are talking about, meditation. I was meditating in that Joburg experience in that job, and I found this meditation from this person was called Emily Fletcher, and she was teaching a meditation technique on this platform called Mind Valley, and her meditation was not at all resonating, but it got me into this idea of what is meditation and what can meditation do for me, and can it help in some way with like what I'm experiencing, because I was experiencing so much fear, stress, worry, and anxiety that I didn't even want to get up some mornings and go to work because I knew that the demon bouncer from hell was going to spew fire and fury onto me. And that's not what 15K is not worth being used and abused in an 8 hour workplace. It wasn't, it was not at all great or wonderful. I did not deserve that. And sorry, that is not the amount. So meditation was starting to bring to me the awareness of what I was experiencing internally. And so I knew internally that what was being holding me back from going into that workplace was fear from this person and fear of this person. And I knew also, I could see in my dreams like running. I was running from this person in my dreams too. Oh my God, I was dreaming about the boss at the time, running from them. Whenever in my dreams I'm running from something, it's a reflection of my waking state where I'm avoiding some problem. Interestingly enough, that dream, the person's face and whole like demeanor was there, so I knew exactly what I was running from. I also knew that I spending more time in that environment was going to make me prone to becoming like that person. And what does that mean? It means becoming like harsh, cold, uncaring, like a robot demon entity. If you think of a robot demon entity, that's like the opposite of a human that you don't ever want to be like or become like. I was prone to becoming that. I think you know that more like you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with. So you need to watch out with who you're spending time with, because even if those people are relatively financially successful, but if they're fucked up people, you're gonna become one of them. So you need to watch out and you need to choose the people that you hang out with carefully. Meditation was, of course, in observation. So I was doing my meditation, closing my eyes, sitting still for I was doing it regularly, as I told you. When I got into that office at 8 o'clock, between 8 and 8:30, I was doing my meditation. So I was really doing the inner observation. I was noticing these things about my inner state. And then when so just in summary so far, what was being shown to me was that I was afraid of this person, and being fearful of someone you're working with is never a healthy space to be in, because um, your income is tied to that experience. So now your fear is tied to the income. So for you to get the income, you're going to be experiencing fear. That's not at all a great space to be conditioning your body and your mind. I started to realize also that I didn't want to become like this person. So the more time I spent there, the more I was going to adopt those characteristics. I started to also see that I was stuck in a loop of attracting weird and fucked up people that showed me how little I mattered in the world. And they call that a negative toxic cycle. I was starting to see that I was stuck in a negative toxic cycle. I also started to see that I had low self-worth. I didn't believe that I was even worthy of existence or living. And you saw that in that deep depressive suicidal state that I was in. I didn't even believe that I was like had worth. I didn't believe that I had worth, or that I even deserving of existence. Wow, what? Why did I even think that? Well, if you knew, if you know about my upbringing, that's the way my family looked at me. They looked at me like, what the fuck are you doing here? You're not even something, you know? And when they listen to the story, they will deny it, because for them, they don't recognize that it's not about what you say, it's about how you look at someone. If you always look at someone as an insignificant person, if you always look at your child as a problem, as a cause of your suffering, as your cause of your pain, as just another problem for you to deal with, they start to internalize that look, and they start to look at themselves the same way. So watch out. The way you look at your children is the way they look at themselves. And that's what they say, actions speak louder than words. It's less about what you say and more about how you see them. If you're always annoyed when you see your child, when they look at themselves, they're going to be annoyed at their presence, at their existence. That's not a good space to be in. So I was starting to become aware. Meditation was helping me to become aware of what my internal state felt like, but also of like this voice in my head that they call it inner monologue. It sounds like me, but it's not a voice, because a voice must be like a vocal expression, right? Like what I'm doing right now. But if it's in your mind, it's a thought. There's a thought in my mind that sounds like me, that's always talking, and people say it's normal and they call it inner monologue. It can sometimes make us believe that we are mind just because we sound like it. But when you listen to yourself in a recording, you know that there's a difference between what your vocal expression sounds like versus the one in your mind. So it's not the same. So I was starting to recognize that I had low self-worth. I didn't believe I was worth anything, or even believe that I was deserving of existence. I was starting to see that I was stuck in a negative, toxic cycle of attracting managers that treated me like I was nothing. I didn't believe that I didn't deserve to be there, that I didn't have anything worth of valuable to offer. I started to see that I was experiencing fear and anxiety in relation to this person that I was working with, and that was not at all healthy for a working experience. I started to see that my career choices, and I should have seen this when I chose that finance degree, and that was the first time I experienced depression, that I was aware of what it was. That my career choices were not at all aligned with my authentic expression of who I was internally. I'm like this gentle, kind, carefree, creative, free, loving, joyous, wonderful person. I want to express myself. I want to I want to be free, joyous, creative, expressive, authentic, and those types of things. But the careers that I was choosing were very much like analytical, logical, but like stagnant. You like suppressed in your mind. You're made. They take your brain and they like squish it like that, and they squeeze it. They squeeze all the life out of you, and they okay, work with that. They like I went into very draining, like cold, inhuman working environments where people thought that like inhuman things were normal. And I'm so sad for my past self that did that. But had I not done that, I would have not known that that's what I was attracting for myself. So I think there's a part of me that's a bit accepting of the responsibility of those spaces, um, because it helped me see what I don't want to experience in my life. And then the other thing it helped me realize was that, um, low self-worth, my careers were not aligned with my authenticity. um, there was this voice in my head that's my inner monologue that's actually a thought, and it was saying some weird things sometimes, like, suicidal things. But then some good things were coming out of it. Some good things were coming out of it. And after I left that Joburg job and I was in that, that month of depression, I was starting to slowly recognize that maybe the way I got into this was not at all bad, but it was a show of the strength of my mental capabilities when in alignment with a purpose and vision and a dream. So I cannot fault myself for having that dream, even though if it was a dream that was sold to me from someone else. But then if the power of my mind was as strong to take me to try out that one, to try out that one, and I saw now that whole context environment was not doing it for me. As I was beginning to accept responsibility for where I got myself into, could I then take responsibility for, can I harness the power of my mind to get out of this darkness and despair and sorrow that I was experiencing? That was a turning point. That was a turning point in courage. It was a turning point in courage when I started to accept responsibility for, just like how I got myself into that deep dark depression due to the conscious choices that I had made at the time that were in alignment with the purpose and the vision. So too can I get myself out of the darkness and despair by choosing a different purpose and a vision, and similarly harness the power of my mind to go in alignment with that vision. But it will take some energy, effort, and action to get myself out of that space before I start to develop the momentum of progressing forward. Yeah, that was a good one. That was harnessing the courage, and the courage was starting to show up. It was starting to show up that maybe I don't look like a worthless piece of shit if this thing didn't work. But can I start to create a new vision for my life, a vision that's more aligned with what I want instead of what people want for me? In addition to that, I was starting to become a believer of a higher power. And I was starting to realize that the higher power is not at all like what my religion was teaching me. My religion was teaching me that God is a man in the sky or in a place called heaven, and I'm going to see God after I die. God wants me to worship Him and trust, faith, and believe. Sorry, that wasn't it. What I actually started to realize in that deep dark depression was that there was something there. There was an energy there that was keeping me alive. Even though my mind was saying, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself, there was an energy there. I could feel it. It was keeping me alive. It was like not saying, but it was like showing me love. It was showing me love at the time when I least felt love. And I started to realize that is more closer to what God is than the idea of the man in the sky. And that was so helpful because meditation, the inner observation, it allowed me to observe internally this thing that's holding my life together. It's holding my life together in a way I cannot describe. But the more I meditate, the more I can feel it. The more I can feel it, like it's there. It's like it's like my life cushion. It's like there, it's always there. And so I started to change my view on what God was, because the whole idea of God was not at all helpful. It was a very outdated idea, and it did serve its purpose. At some point, it was no longer serving its purpose. I needed to understand that God was not separate from my life and from my spirit and from my being and from my essence. God was connected, always and forever connected. There's nowhere I can go, there's nowhere I can be without that energy. And that energy is more closer to what God is than the man in the sky. The man in the sky, sorry, it's not working for me anymore. So this emerged my identity of spirituality and my understanding of spirituality, that deep down inside, all the life forms have life, and that life does not have a religion, and it does not have ideology, and it does not have a book, and it does not have chants and prayers and worships. It is existence. It is there. It is doing its thing. It exists. The purpose of life is existence. It exists. It does not need your worship. It does not need your praise. It needs your alignment. It needs your connection. It needs your see it, be with it, have it, feel it. It does not need you to sing it. It does not need you to praise it. It does not need you to worship it. It just needs you to be there. I started to see that. It was so refreshing. It was so wonderful. It was so freeing, because religion and God was starting to be too much complicated. It was not at all serving what it was meant to be serving. So that's another thing that meditation brought me, a different understanding of God. Meditation has been so profound for me, and I really want to encourage you to practice meditation starting from today. Click down below and get my meditation course. It's called the 5 Minute Stress Relieving Meditation, and it's available now. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed, then click down below and get this course. It's the very same meditation that I personally use on a daily basis to be able to relieve my daily stresses, to be able to release tension from my mind and body, and to calm any anxiety or racing thoughts in my mind whenever I see it. It's a meditation that I've been using for years now, over 5 years, and I'm making it available to you in a course down below. And when you get this meditation, for limited time only, I'm going to offer you a free 45-minute coaching call. And with this coaching call, I'm going to help you to identify a mental obstacle that's currently holding you back from one of your life goals. I'm going to help you develop an action plan to be able to overcome that mental obstacle. And I'm going to help you gather the courage to take action on that obstacle starting from today. Take this seriously. Take this very seriously. Throughout this whole episode, I've told you how profound and significant meditation has been for me. Observing your inner state, there is no replacement for it. Sometimes people say, well, I pray, that's my meditation. Well, I cook, that's my meditation. Well, I exercise, that's my meditation. There's no replacement for inner observation. You can't tell me that running is your meditation. Do you run while sitting still with your eyes closed? People need to stop with that shit. Meditation is meditation. Stop with the blasphemy, please. And respect the practice. Respect the practice that's how many couple thousand-year-old practice. You literally see, okay, if you're in touch with any Eastern traditions, they're all sitting still, cross-legged with their eyes closed. Don't tell me that cooking is your meditation. Yeah, sorry for that tangent. Anyways, take meditation seriously. There is no substitute for your own restraint and sitting still with your eyes closed. You really need to be aware of what's going on internally, because in this world, in this fast-paced, volatile world, it's so easy to get caught up in people's drama. It's so easy to attract negative entities. It's so easy to seek something and get something that's unhealthy and wholesome for you. It's so easy to get trapped in negative and toxic cycles that you can only see these things When you start to practice inner observation and you start to recognize that your intuition will tell you what's going on. Sometimes we trust our logical, rational mind way too much. We need to trust our intuition, but maybe your intuition is not functioning because you don't know what it even feels like anymore. You practice and you train listening to your intuition by doing the inner observation, which is sitting still with eyes closed, and there's no substitute for that is meditation. So when you're ready to take the courage to take your own mental well-being into your own hands, to take your life into your own hands, to grab life, don't be a passive, like don't be flailing with life. Don't be flailing with life like that. Grab life and go with it. But you're not going to grab life if you don't understand the inner workings of some of these divine gifts that have been given to you. Do it with meditation. Meditation has been so profound and significant for me. And I'm so glad to have shared the story with you about how meditation came into my life and about how meditation saved me from suicide. You know, without meditation, I would have not recognized that I was dealing with low self worth and unhealthy self esteem, that I believed that I was a piece of shit that didn't deserve life or was worth existing in the first place. I wouldn't have been able to see that I was fearful and worried on a daily basis about engaging with this person who was my boss and paying my salary, or that I was attracting these negative people into my life that treated me like shit because that's what I believed I deserved, and that I was stuck in a negative, toxic cycle of attracting people that validated for me my beliefs about myself. I would have not seen without meditation that the voice in my head that sounds like me, that they call inner monologue, is actually not a voice, it's a thought. It's a thought, oh my God, and that it just keeps going on. And sometimes it's not helpful. Sometimes it offers unhelpful, illogical recommendations, like it did when I was depressed and it was suggesting to me suicide. I would have not seen without meditation that I was taking careers that were not aligned with my true internal, authentic self. And that's why these jobs are not working, because I was trying to be someone that I was not, and I was following the life of somebody else that wasn't me. Without meditation, I would have not seen that my mind was so powerful that with the right vision and purpose, I can go anywhere. And that's how I went into those negative, toxic environments, because I did have vision and purpose to want to create a career in those spaces. Similarly, I could harness the power of my mind and I could change my vision and purpose, and I could develop a life that's more aligned with my authentic creative self. And that's what meditation helped me to see. And meditation also helped me to see that my idea of God was wrong. God is not a man in the sky, God is the energy of life itself. It is my existence. God is my existence. God is what they call the state of existing. Existing. The power of life is God. God is the power of life. It is everywhere. The power of God makes the atoms vibrate. The power of God makes the planets rotate. The power of God makes my heart beat. The power of God makes my lungs inhale and exhale. The power of God makes me move throughout space. The power of God makes my body appear. The power of God makes me see. The power of God makes me comprehend the existence that I exist, that I know I exist, is God. Sorry that they made you believe that you must worship a man in the sky. It's not real. Don't believe that. That's how they get you trapped into seeking from them, worshiping them. No, no, no. You're not a random, worthy, insignificant piece of shit in a cold, lifeless universe that needs to then worship a God that you're going to see after you die. That's not it. You, your existence, that is God. The energy of life is God itself. That is what is really God. And you see, in some of these individuals, and we'll save this topic for another time, that when you really tap into the power of God, you can literally shift physical reality. But that's not going to come to everyone. You really need to be like unconditionally loving, good, gracious, kind, wholesome, truthful, honest person to even access that level of God power. You are a deep and divine child of God, and you must grasp your inherent God power, and you must stop being fooled into believing that you're worthless, insignificant human. You are not. You are literally the God power expressed as life itself, and you must seek more of yourself, and you can only do that with the inner observation that is sitting still with eyes closed. That again, I want to tell you, if you want to get my meditation course, click down below and get my meditation course where I teach you the very same meditation practice that I use in my life. It's going to change your life. It's going to change your life. Don't hesitate. Take action now. And I think I should leave it there for this episode. Yeah, this was it was a great episode. And I'm so grateful and thankful that you've joined me again. And I think, as I continue to do deep topics with Shaun, I continue to discover what I feel so fulfilled and purposeful with talking about. And as much as I've created this platform to be able to have deep discussions that wouldn't otherwise occur in daily life, I also have this platform to be able to do work that's aligned with my purpose. And the work that's aligned with my purpose is so deep and profound to me that in this episode, I feel like I continue to share more of my authentic self and my journey and how I got to where I am today. But I continue to share with you lessons that are transformative, wonderful, insightful for your own growth and development so that you, if you ever find yourself in a space similar to what I found myself in, or if you ever find yourself in a space worse to what I found myself in, that you can gather some insights to be able to take action in your life and to make significant and profound changes just like I have without fear, without hesitation. Have the courage, have the willingness, have the confidence to take those decisions that are more aligned with what you want and who you want to be. Thank you. Thank you again for watching this episode. This is episode 3 of Deep Topics with Shaun, and I'm so grateful that you've decided to join us, whether this is on Spotify, whether this is on YouTube. Make sure if you like this episode to leave a like on the platform of your choice. Subscribe if you want to see more and if you want to receive notifications for upcoming podcasts. And also leave a comment or review letting me know if there's anything in this episode that's resonated with you, or if you even disagree with something that I've said, let me know as well. Share down below and let that be a thread for us to have topics about some of these deep discussions that so that we can continue to talk about these things. We can continue to talk about these deep, profound, and significant things that matter so much for our lives in existence and physical reality. And I thank you again for watching, for listening, for subscribing. And remember, my meditation course is linked down below, so make sure to get that. And for limited time only, you're going to get a free 45-minute coaching call with me. Other than that, I'll see you next week. And I want to wish you a wonderful day. I want to wish you a wonderful week. And I want to wish you well. Take care. Thanks for joining. This is Shaun. Bye, everyone.